Good morning, I think. I'm Amanda, and this is Anne. She'll be jumping back up in a minute, but we're going to be talking about, we're both with the U.S. National Park Service Inventory and Monitoring Program, Pacific Island Network, and we'll be talking just a little bit more about Kaloko-Honokōhau National Historical Park, and then also our water quality monitoring at Pu'uhonua National Historical Park. Which way do I point this? Yeah, it's not working. I'll just use this. Okay, here's a brief overview of our presentation. First, I'll just introduce you to the Pacific Island Network Inventory and Monitoring Program. If you want to know anything more about that program, just have to wait till tomorrow afternoon. Dave Raikow will be speaking about that. And we'll also have a monitoring workshop, which Anne and I and Dave will also be participating in. Then I'm going to speak about Kaloko-Honokōhau National Historical Park resources and results from our monitoring, and then Anne will take over to speak with you about Pu'uhonua National Historical Park results, and then a summary and conclusions. The Pacific Island Network Inventory and Monitoring Program is one of 32 inventory and monitoring program networks of the U.S. National Park Service. These networks aim to conduct exceptional ecosystem-based science with a mission to support informed stewardship of our national parks through inventories, monitoring, and the integration of our data into park management. Monitoring is centered around ecological vital signs. Here at PAC-N, we conduct long-term monitoring at 11 parks for 14 vital signs, including those that are represented in the pictures. Here's just a quick map of the 11 parks we are working in. Kaloko-Honokōhau National Historical Park, Pu'uhonua National Historical Park, as well as the Alakahakai National Historical Trail are the 3 parks where we have ankline pool ecosystems, and we're studying water quality in those. Since you've heard a lot about ankline pools already, I will skip that introduction. But why do we monitor ankline pools? We monitor them for their natural and cultural significance. We monitor them because they are habitat for rare and endemic species, and because they are under constant threat from increasing anthropogenic stressors. We sample ankline pools in 11 ahupua'a that are shown on this map, and I realize that's very small, but I just want to show you that it extends beyond where we're going to be speaking about today, so we have a lot more data that is available. Each of our sampling events it consists of nutrient samples that are collected for these parameters, and then 10-minute deployment of a YSI brand multi-parameter sound. Now that brings us to Kaloko-Honokōhau National Historical Park. You heard quite a bit about this beautiful place already this morning and the challenges it faces. The park encompasses over 200 ankline pools in a wide variety of types, including large and small pools that are open, as well as lava crack features, like that picture here on the right, and some just wet spots, like that in the middle, which are completely covered with vegetation. At Kaloko-Honokōhau, we monitor 8 ankline pools quarterly since 2008. 4 of those pools are fixed pools that we go to every quarter, and then we also choose randomly from a set of 32 pools, 4 additional pools each quarter. This mixed panel design allows us to cover more pools with some frequency. The main product of our water quality monitoring is the time series water quality data, which looks like this. This figure includes the breadth of the certified water quality database for Kaloko-Honokōhau's pools. This data set allows us to assess the range and variability in water quality in the pool pools, and also to assess change over time in these basic water quality parameters. I think in this figure you can already start to see some things that are happening, perhaps some increasing nutrients at the top of the graph, variability in chlorophyll and turbidity, and you can also get to know some of the ranges in salinity and temperature that we're seeing. In exploring the data further, we have learned that our pool sites represented by the circles on this map show some geographic distinctions. Clustering analyses reveal that these three distinct groups of pools in terms of nutrients. Because anchialine pools are a window into the groundwater, it's perhaps not too surprising that sites that are close together have similar trends in nutrients. As you can see in the graphs, which are also color-coded the same as the map, the pools to the south of the park have the lowest nutrient concentrations, although as Lisa explained, below that, below where we're regulatory monitoring, there are actually pools that have much higher concentrations. Sorry, I got lost. And other than that, you can start to see that there are some increases and some events that are unique to the groups, like that big spike in total dissolved nitrogen on that top graph in the north group. Using linear mixed model regression, we can explore trends in each parameter. From 2008 to 2017, we see significant increases in all three nutrient parameters across all sites. But digging in a little further, we can see that this is driven by increases in the central pool group, which is where the majority of our sites lie. The picture that's on the bottom there is of one of our fixed pools that's in the central group, and this is a typical pool in that area. And you can see that there is very little about the pool itself that could affect the nutrient concentrations. There's no vegetation in or around the pool, and it is home only to native shrimp. And so these increases are likely directly related to groundwater quality. Okay, last slide on Kaloko, and then I'll hand it over to Anne. In addition to getting a look at the groundwater, there are a lot of unique pools. And so our limnological parameters measured with the multi-parameter SON are useful to monitor some of the characteristics that make each pool habitat unique. A pool that is like that pictured on the far left that is fairly stable across all parameters, whereas the pool in the center, which is also a pristine opae'ula habitat, has high ranges in total dissolved oxygen due to the native marine algae that is inhabiting there, which kind of has a cyclic pattern of blooming and dying. Other pools, especially those with invasive fish, experience wide ranges in chlorophyll and turbidity due to algal blooms and detritus. Yet other pools, like those that are shaded by lots of native or non-native vegetation, like that on the right, experience the effects of shading and leaf litter changing regimes of most of the parameters. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Anne now.
Thanks, Amanda. My name is Anne. I'm going to talk about Pu'uhonua National Historical Park. This place, hopefully some of you will get to visit. It's really special. It was a place of refuge in the Hawaiian times when individuals who broke the kapu, the sacred law, if they could make it here, they would be safe. So they would run, they would swim, they would paddle, they would get here however they saw fit to avoid punishment, usually death. And this was a saving grace for those folks. These park resources, in addition to the numerous cultural resources, which if you get to visit, there's amazing temples, archaeological resources, but also anchialine pools. So the park protects 14 anchialine pools, including 2 that were traditionally used as fish ponds. The one on the here as well, oh not this one mostly. I guess it was more used for storing fish prior to harvesting, so kind of like your ice box as opposed to a traditional aquaculture method. We have 5 fixed pools, so these pools are Those we visit every quarter since 2008. So I'm just gonna highlight a couple of those. There's also, they're separated into two ahupua'a. So these two over here are grouped, as well as these three in the royal grounds, which include the two fish ponds and then another pond. I'm going to talk about one of these pools in the Keokea region, which was that south region, that South Ahupua'a. This pool, this is a picture from 2013. It looks kind of like a mud pit, I know, but it's actually an Anchialine pool. This pool was a favorite of pigs to wallow in. People didn't realize that it was actually an Anchialine pool and would accidentally back over it with trucks and such. So we'd see tire tracks sometimes in there. At low tide, there is no water, but at high tide, it actually supports abundant opae'ula. And so the park in 2015 erected a fence that you can see back here in the background to protect this pool from accidental backing over and ungulates, goats, pigs, all of that would now be excluded from this pool, which is amazing that the park took it upon themselves to protect this beautiful pool, what will become a beautiful pool here in the future. So this is 2015. Continuing on, you'll see huge piles of green waste that are now piled outside of the pool, which is awesome, and some water going in here, clearing the vegetation. This is 2020, this pool, and then in 2022, more recently, you can see that the vegetation is taking off. There's makaloa, there's milo, it's becoming more looking like an Anchialine pool. But still, what does that look like in terms of water quality monitoring? Well, you can see that the readings are kind of all over the place. It's not acting still like a traditional Anchialine pool. The salinity is changing, it's bouncing around, the nutrients are kind of just a wide range. And so I think that we think the next step for this pool is to remove the organic matter, to take out all those coconuts that are falling in there, the mud and stuff that has long been stagnant in that pool, that we can restore the freshwater flow to make it behave more like a traditional Anchialine pool. This pool, Keokea 003, is right next to the other pool. It's actually an old well, so it's kind of like a pit down there. In order to sample, we have to either use a pole or dangle ourselves in there. This pool, you can see from the data, it mirrors the other pool, so it's probably connected underground. You can see a couple spikes here in salinity. This was a high surf event that created more ocean water coming into that pool. Same time, there was a little increase in turbidity as well as nutrients at the same time. This pool is now we've moved over to the Royal Grounds area. One of these pools, Bob Peck tomorrow is going to talk more about the CO2 treatment, but we've done a couple rounds of removal of tilapia, as you've heard plenty about. Tilapia have invaded this pool, have taken over, but they were removed a couple of times here now. You have to keep working, it's like weeding your garden, right? We always have to keep removing the invasive fish, but you can see the change over time in this pool from 2012 to more recently. And once the fish were removed, the algae kind of took off in there, and that turns out to be a native algae, so it's a good thing. How does that look in terms of water quality? Well, you can see a nice cyclical pattern. Everything seems pretty normal. You can get to know the ranges of this. We still see that same peak in the high surf event in these pools, a little bit increase in turbidity, and a range in temperature as well as oxygen. Oh. Okay. I think there was another slide, but anyways. Guess I will. Okay. So the program is funded long-term monitoring and is planned to continue in perpetuity for decades. We're relying on science to better inform park management. Our water quality monitoring is really simple, but it creates a trustworthy baseline. And this data, we're doing the same procedure all throughout all aquatic resources throughout the Pacific, and so can be related to other parks in the region. We'll continue to analyze this data each year. Data is publicly available. All this data is up on this IRMA resource. If you ever wanted to download it, it's available for managers and stewards, community members, anyone who wants to get the data. Our contacts are here for myself, Amanda, and David Raikow, who will be speaking tomorrow. So if you ever have any more questions,